Hello and welcome to Evil Ginger Miniatures, where I'm going to be doing a little bit of a bonus content episode, reviewing some figures I got recently and would be well into building. Unfortunately, I'm waiting for some bases for them. As is typical with War Games Atlantic models, they don't come with bases. This is usually a great problem, as I have hundreds of these on hand, as well as assorted MDF and all sorts of other things. However, these particular models come without puddle bases, which is an advantage if you want to put them on a textured base, but if you don't have any textured bases the correct size, is a bit of a disadvantage. Now these are their Villagers 2 set, which are elves and dwarves. You get 24 in a box, and they were designed with Traitor's Toll in mind, so they're mostly designed to be able to make the characters that you need for the game. But they're also generically useful fantasy characters, and therefore useful as sort of a supplement to anybody that does role playing with figures, like I'm going to be doing, and I do. Now I've opened this already, by the way, so there's a sprue missing because I have stolen bits off it for things. You get 3 of these sprues, and they're all identical. Each has got 4 elf bodies, 2 male, 2 female, and 4 dwarf bodies, again 2 male, 2 female, and a selection of bits and pieces and arm options, which allow you to build a nice variety of figures. You know, in classic roles, the elves are musicians and bards and that sort of thing, and the dwarves are blacksmiths and that sort of thing. And there are some really, really nice pieces on here, which is why I've only got 2 intact sprues out of the 3, because I stole a load of bits, most of the heads, to tart up my kit-bashed dwarf retinue. There's plenty of variety of heads, so there'll be plenty of spare heads for all sorts of kit bashing purposes. So if, like me, you're into kit bashing, it's a great box. It's probably a bit empty as a box goes, but again, it's a fantasy subject, and there's something of a limit. And there are some nice pictures of what can be done with them. As I say, I was going to be building them, but I decided that I wanted some paved bases to put the models on. This is the one I've looted, and I didn't have any, so that's going to have to wait. So you'll probably see an Evil Ginger in shorts or some. The elves are Tolkien-esque, aren't Tolkien-esque style elves. They're D&D sort of Hackmaster style elves, so they're relatively short and gracile, and not the great tall strapping heroes of myth and legend that you get out of Tolkien. But if you're playing a D&D style game, they're great. And whilst you've only got 4 bodies, you've got quite a selection of bits to do things with, and it's a good companion to the human villagers stroke civilians set, which I'm not got yet. The main difference between those two is that the original set have puddle bases on them, which makes them, just sticking them down to say something like Renedra paved bases, a bit more awkward in that you actually have to saw the puddle base off. Whereas with something like this, you can obviously just blend it in like I do with every other puddle base. So these are going to be built as Traitor's Toll models when I get the bases, and I'm going to be investing in a Traitor's Toll set to go with them, and possibly some more civilians, because you get 12 with the box set, and I think you need a lot more. I'll be going through the game and building people to fit, but for now, and again, you know, it's a nice game, and one I did back the Kickstarter for, but not for enough money to get anything out of it. So, because it's the sort of creativity that I appreciate, and again, given what I've used, stolen off that sprue to kit bash other projects, it's spot on for a lot of development in gaming. And I like plastic gaming figures. They are something I've wanted ever since I was persuaded to buy my first box of Space Marines and went, oh, look at the things you can do with the aid of a simple knife. And yeah, you can. You know, you've seen Umbrakill, so you can do an awful lot of things. My dwarves for Warhost and things, and again, these would make nice civilian characters for Warhost, in that they will be people who, you know, you need to evacuate or protect or that sort of thing. And I mean, more historical games ought to do civilians for that reason, because there's a lot of protection and, you know, historical slave raidy type stuff that people should be aware of and make challenging scenarios. But I'm really pleased with these. I'm looking forward to the other ones, even if I do have to raise the store bases off to get them to stand the same. Because they different. The problem will be is that obviously these are shorter than the humans. Now you'd expect that off the dwarves, but they're shorter not because the figure's shorter, but because there's 1.5 mil or a mil of puddle base missing. So in order to make them the same height, you're going to have to chop the bases up with a disc of plastic card or something like that that's about 1 mil thick, or you're going to have to saw the other ones off, and sawing puddle bases off is a bit of a performance, which is why I don't do it that much, which is why I have a tendency to do what I've done with this guy, which is just to take the puddle base and just blend it into the rest of the base. You'll be hearing more about him later. But as I say, it's a good game. It's quite a complicated game, and it can be soloed and it can be multiplayer. And I think that's a great strength, and I have every intention of soloing Traitors Toll on as a Let's Play series. And I also have every intention of doing a few painted sets for the Etsy shop, along with a few bits and pieces of scenery, like the War Games Atlantic markets set, and a couple of other bits and pieces, and things like that roadway that you that market set out. You can see, and I've got loads of medieval buildings, and they have all sorts of useful uses, and you can even get inside most of mine. Anyway, I thought you'd like a little bit of bonus content, because I haven't done it for ages, and I was really both inspired by these and a little frustrated because I didn't have the bases to turn them into models, because I was going to show those off. But instead I worked my frustration out by stealing some bits of the Warhost thing, and by building my full Warhost dwarf force, which is currently sitting over there, having the milliput on the base go off, and I'll be back at them tomorrow, because I need to go over them and do a lot of sort of faffing around and filling around the arms, just making sure everything's worked properly, because there's been quite a lot of kit bashing on them. But Traitors Toll, nice game, nice figures, interesting subject, and lots of versatility beyond the game. Anyway, that's me for now. Take care, everybody, and goodbye.